was just talking to Tara, my daughter, one of my daughters, who speaks all these 5 languages, and I don't, I don't know how she does it. But we were talking about how the words that she teaches people how to speak English who can't speak English, and she says they just get so frustrated with, some of these words of what they really mean, because in one way it'll mean one thing, and then they will say humorous, so but that, no, it's not, no, that's your bone, but that's the same word as being funny. Is that where funny bone came from? We were talking about all these things, and they have such a challenge understanding it. And I actually I wrote about this in the book on perception, the power of perception, where Maya and we were writing about how a guy got offended because the guy just said, yeah, keep it simple, stupid, just kiss method. And to him, it's just a common expression. But to the other culture, it's like, the guy just insulted me. Wait a minute, And so as you're speaking on these platforms, you're speaking more globally to different groups. You may not know what their expressions are telling you as much if you're not familiar with these people. And some of these words that maybe their English is a second language, and you're saying something humorous, talking about a bone, and they're thinking funny. And there's so many words that are like that. I mean, Tara was telling me all these words. I go, yeah, I never even thought about that. And
gestures.
And then she started going into other things like, oh, funny bone and Charlie horse. Why would it be a Charlie horse? And then you could get frogged in the arm, and there's all these words. and as we were talking, she had a lot of examples. I wish I could remember what they were, of words that just drive people crazy because it's so close, and the same thing could mean 5 different things, the same word, and they don't do that in other languages. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how we communicate.
There is a difference between the denotation and the connotation of every single word that we select. But if you don't know the culture, then you are translating according to denotation, the dictionary definition, as opposed to the connotation of how colloquial language is expressed. So we're so different in so many ways. But I'll tell you something, going back to taking your treatise or thesis or platform, whatever it is that you are trying to project, and then just projecting it without a knowledge of the audience is a death sentence to what you have to present. Because if you cannot touch the hearts of the people in front of you, why are you bothering?
As you're saying that, I taught that course this morning. We always do this on the days that I teach this course.
Yes, right.
Marketing right this week. And we're talking about the same things. It's the same marketing principles. Know your audience, know your customer. Don't use a shotgun approach. You're wasting money. And that's the kinds of things you teach in marketing courses, right? You want to know, you want to get a message out. And some of the things, even my other daughter, Tony, she works in a company that kind of is called Split. And it's kind of looking at advertising, A/B testing. So let's say you want to advertise on Facebook or these things. You've seen people do these A/B testing things, right? Well, their software is much more complicated, but it's that you test this idea and then you test this idea and you see which one works better. And that's kind of what we do when we give talks. You say something one time when you give it, and you watch how it flies in the audience, and you go, that joke was supposed to be funnier, and it really wasn't that funny. I remember I gave a talk in Vegas to this cybersecurity group, and I'm telling a story about, I was telling a story. Oh, it was in my class. I was talking about my students in the same school, actually. These students who were having this fight in class, and the one guy, I'll just call him Trevor, was nice, and then the one guy, I'll call him Jeffrey, was not, right? And so Trevor was like defending, good things. And then Jeffrey was just slamming him and doing all these things. And so I was telling this story about how they weren't communicating well, and how Jeffrey was just giving me a really hard time. He was just horrible to me. And then Trevor would come to my rescue and, say these really nice things. And in my joke, and I can't remember exactly how it all went, but I remember saying, I was going to say, and Trevor and I've been married for the last 10 years or something, just to make it funny. But I accidentally messed up and I said, and Jeffrey and I, the bad guy, have been married for, and it was way funnier, me marrying the bad guy. And I'm like, hey, I wish I had thought of that. And then I used that later. And it was, so sometimes you do your own A/B testing and in your things by accident, in that case.
It's a very important topic because you don't know as much research as you do, and as much information as you have about your audience, and as much as you have filled out the analysis, the audience analysis sheet that I purposely put in here for people to rip out and use and apply. Even then, you won't know until you get up and actually deliver. You don't know how it's going to be received because perhaps one person in the audience has a bad headache, and he is the most vociferous in your audience, and suddenly he's not participating.
Right.
Or you may not have your timing perfect to deliver whatever you intended to deliver, or something happens and you don't deliver as you would plan to. That means that the recipients are not going to receive as you had planned them to receive. So even though you know the audience, if you've done your homework, it may just fall flat on its face, but that is not a terrible thing, because whatever touches us teaches us. One of my Gilderams. Whatever touches us teaches us, so that we say, this is my epiphany for the day. Thanks God. I didn't ask for this, but okay. And it turns into actually a come to Jesus moment when we say, well, that messed up, but what did I learn from this? And there are so many pieces to this. It has to do with your willingness to look inside yourself and say, am I big enough to admit that I screwed up? Am I big enough to say, okay, that didn't work, but let me see what I have learned from this? Or am I not big enough and say, oh, I'm such an idiot. Oh, I'm so stupid. How did I do that? And how did I do this? And what I'm suggesting is that use every experience as a lesson. Tell you something. So you found a joke out of your own screw up that turned out to be very powerful.
I know. I felt like Sheldon when he tells a joke by accident on Big Bang. I was just like, what? Oh, okay. It was pretty funny. And I thought, I wish I'd thought of that naturally instead of having fallen into it.
But many times it doesn't come naturally.
No,
it
comes hard
as a result of having screwed up here and then needing to find a different path there, and then saying, wow, this was so much better